What's up, guys? So I had a few of my guys from overseas that really wanted me to check out the Galaxy Note 9 in 2024. This is such an interesting device, and a lot of people would argue that this is Samsung's all-time best flagship. I still think the Note 10 Plus is still one of Samsung's best flagships, but this one you can argue for it because it has pretty much everything that a lot of people like. Before they started to make the move to really take stuff out of devices like the headphone jack, the SD card support, and we all know that this is really just, for the most part, it's just a money grab, like selling you up on storage, selling you wireless earbuds. And yeah, the tech is going to be better as far as like, wireless earbuds and stuff like that is going to be, easier to deal with, and cords and stuff like that. But it really depends on the person, right? Because some people, they lose the earbuds really easily. They prefer the wire. And yeah, expandable storage, I just think that went away way prematurely. A lot of people still really want SD card support, which is why the Note 20 Ultra is such in high demand. Alright, so, and a lot of people tell me that they really appreciate me coming back to these older phones, because in certain countries, and this is something I'm becoming a little bit more conscious of, like an S10 Plus and stuff like that, an S20 Ultra and stuff like that, some of these older phones that you can find here in the States for like 200, 150 bucks, they still cost quite a bit of money overseas. So that's also something that, I'm even taking into consideration. So I make sure I go back to these older phones. One of the best things about these older Samsung phones is just how far ahead Samsung was in display technology. This phone came out in 2018, and the display is actually still absolutely fantastic on here. It's a Super AMOLED display. It's HDR10 at 6.4 inches. It's a full 1440p resolution, and it's 516 for the PPI. Absolutely beautiful display. It is a curved panel as well. And guys, it's a fantastic display. I mean, it looks just as good as the newer displays. The only thing that's really aged with the display here is that, yeah, the bezels are a little bit chunkier, of course, and then you also it doesn't get as bright in like direct sunlight and stuff like that, and it doesn't have 120 hertz. But if we're just talking about just straight up the display quality, it still looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a beautiful display. The colors are popping, and also it's pretty smooth phone for 60 hertz as well. I think the Snapdragon 860 or 845 on here is doing a really good job. I mean, it still feels really smooth for a 60 hertz phone. But the display on here, I think, is top notch. Samsung, they don't have any type of notch or punch hole on here. They actually waited to get the the punch hole, right? But yeah, it's a really good display. Alright guys, and as far as gaming performance goes, I was pretty surprised as well how well the Snapdragon 845, well, not that surprised. This phone is still doing a great job. Now, we can't do HDR Extreme anymore. It's only HDR Ultra. But it's still pretty smooth for the most part, and this phone does a pretty good job with performance. I guess it's like more, the gaming performance now is sort of more on par with like a, let's see, like a upper mid-range phone now. And it does have micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, 6 gigs of RAM on the base model. But I really like the fact that there's no punch hole on here. It really reminds me of the OnePlus 7 Pro. That's a phone that I absolutely love as well too, because of the really excellent display, which we haven't talked about. I might go back to that phone, do a revisit. I just really like that phone. But gaming performance on here, if you are buying it to play games and stuff, like I said, it's fine for the most part. But like I said, it's kind of these days sort of on par with like a an upper mid-range phone for the most part. Really depends on which mid-range phone. Also, I think this still actually plays might out benchmark the A54. If you guys want to actually compare, see what the benchmarks was on here. Let me zoom out of here. Here are the benchmarks. So yeah. Now the next thing I want to talk about is this phone got its last update with Android 10, and it hasn't gotten security patches for a long time. The last security patch this phone got was, it had to be like maybe 2022. Yeah, June 1st, 2022. That was the last security update. And a lot of people want to know, some guys do not care about that at all. They want to know if it's going to be app compatible. So the Google Play Store still works on here fine. There's not been anything in here that I haven't been able to download so far. So there's nothing that you can't download in the Play Store. So I think the people think when the phones are not getting security patches, the phone for some reason just doesn't work anymore. But that's far from the truth. The phone still works. Everything, you can download anything. So I think that was like the main concern. So there's again legit nothing that you can't like download and install and play on this phone. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't ran into anything that's not compatible. Let's take a look at the hardware. Now, let me get a wipe down on here. And it's still a nice looking phone, but you can definitely tell it's definitely an older phone, pretty much from the camera setup, and the physical fingerprint scanner kind of gives it away. But it's still a very nice feeling phone to hold. And for some reason, this phone is not as sharp as the newer Galaxy Note phones, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure why. Like, it is boxy, but for some reason it feels way more comfortable than, let me show you guys. Yeah, it feels way more comfortable than like a S23 Ultra. Yeah, the S23 feels way more sharper on the edges here. I think it's because there's like some type of smoothness right here. You guys see how it's kind of smoothing out, and this one is kind of, that's why I said these the newer Galaxy Note phones, super sharp. Not the most comfortable phones to hold. This one is actually way more comfortable to hold. But yeah, IP68 dust and water resistant, the physical fingerprint scanner on the back, and you also have your pen on here. The pen still works fine. I can't, like, yeah, the latency has gotten way better with the newer phones, of course, but it's still, you know, you can still do stuff on here. It's not like it's slow or anything. It still feels, for the most part, instant. But yeah, if you do like digital artwork, yeah, the newer phones, they have lower latency, but this one's still pretty good for the most part. And yeah, I think the hardware is still really nice on here. Like I said, a lot of people really like the headphone jack, the SD card support. Check out these speakers at max volume. Yeah, so the speakers are decent. They're not super bassy. They sound okay. Definitely, it gets the job done if you're watching movies, playing a game, but not like crazy loud and stuff like that. But the speakers are fairly decent on here. Fingerprint scanner is super fast, and you can also use the iris scanner on here, which, see if I can get it to work. Swipe up, and then you see like the little eyes here. You try to connect them, but I can't really do it from behind the camera, but you get the point. You can do that. It does work actually pretty well. So the Samsung took it away, but it's kind of like a cool little feature to show people. Let's talk about the cameras. So the cameras on the Note 9 are still pretty decent, surprisingly. But you know, with these older phones, of course, you take it out of any type of good lighting, you're gonna get a soft picture. But you would be surprised at how decent the cameras are in like a well-lit environment. They're actually still pretty good cameras for still images. But like I said, if you're like in any type of low light, you're gonna get a soft, you know, kind of grainier shot for sure. It's got a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto with 2x optical. It shoots in 4K 60 and an 8 megapixel selfie cam with the iris scanner up front as well too, and that shoots in 1440p. Like I said, the cameras surprisingly still somewhat decent, but again, like, you know, it's gonna lack detail if you're out of any type of good lighting for sure. But like I said, I'll compare this to the S24 Ultra when I get it, and you'll be shocked. Like, if we're out, I'm gonna go outdoors, and y'all will be shocked at how like this can still put out a pretty decent shot. Some of the colors I think are a little bit too vibrant now that I'm looking at it, but yeah, I mean, this still takes pretty decent shots for the most part. It's actually kind of surprising. Now, as far as battery life, of course, you're gonna have some battery degrade. You know, just having a phone for all these years. And it's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. The charging speed is 15 watts. It's not crazy fast on here. You do have wireless charging, which is nice. But of course, like, you're not gonna get crazy good battery life. With the battery degrade, depending on if you replace the battery, you should get somewhat decent battery life. But Mine's lasts like almost like 5 hours of screen on time, so I think my battery health is still pretty decent. But if you replace the battery, I think you can get just a little bit more screen on time than that. But then again, it depends on what you're doing on your phone. If you're gaming, and you can see I have like these live wallpapers and stuff that's gonna suck battery life. But if you're trying to save battery life, remember to one, keep your brightness down, and then two, try to charge at 85% and don't charge to 100%. That'll help the battery health greatly. All right, so yeah, guys, I'm still impressed with this phone. There's really nothing that this phone can't do. And again, like I said, don't buy the phone if you can buy something better, right? If you can get an S21 FE or Note 10 Plus or Note 20 Ultra, if you really need a Note phone with a pen, I would highly recommend getting like a Note 10 Plus or a Note 20 Ultra. At least those are a little bit newer. And they're on a little bit newer software as well too. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next